Yeah, and it's funny for being a guy who's transferred as much as I have. I would never suggest transferring just because I think it's so important to be at a place and be there for a long time and have a place to come back to one day when you're done. I think transferring is a necessary thing a lot of times for some people, and it worked out great for me. I was a starter at every school I played at other than Alabama and captain on all three. At all three of those other schools, Arkansas State, Ball State, and Texas State. So it was a great experience. I got to meet great coaches who all taught me different things and made me a better player.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Call The Huddle Podcast. I'm Xavier. Today I have an interview with Layne Hatcher, who started as a quarterback and a wrestler throughout high school in Arkansas, setting multiple state records at both. Layne got a blue shirt opportunity from Nick Saban at Alabama out of high school after the season transferring to Arkansas State to go back home. He started there for 3 seasons and then later transferred to Texas State and Ball State this past season before recently declaring for the NFL draft. Layne had a lot of really cool things to talk about and started at all of those schools after Alabama, so he had a lot of cool experiences to touch on and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview as always, and thank you for watching. If you could go back to that mindset a little bit, the wrestling combat sports thing, was your go-to move or takedown?
Yeah, I love wrestling. It's definitely impacted me a lot as a football player. I think my go-to takedown in wrestling was a single leg or a high crotch, but yeah, definitely love that sport.
Okay, what kind of wrestler were you? Were you like fast or like a scorer, or what was your mindset?
I was good on my feet. I was best probably on the mat. I was a leg rider in wrestling, which if you're a wrestling guy, you usually know what that means. But so I was good down on the mat, wrestling on the ground, scored a lot of points there.
Right, and then like I said, I want to get into a couple other fun ones, but I know you were like, what was your weight class? Like 190-ish, correct?
Yeah, 195 my senior year of high school.
Right, that's cool. Yeah, obviously like a big wrestler, and then going into like being a quarterback through all that is a really interesting background and a lot of different. It's a whole different path and like mentality. I think it's a whole different type of sport compared to quarterback, especially where you're more like central to the team. PlayStation or Xbox, Layne? What do you decide?
Xbox for sure.
You're an Xbox guy? Has that always been the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge gamer, but I have an Xbox, and I always like to talk a little crap to the PlayStation guys, even though I barely play at all, but I do. I'm an
Word.
Xbox guy.
Word, right. And then quarterback stuff. I feel like isn't debated, although I feel like it should be a little bit more. Who you picking, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in terms of quarterback talent and why?
It's not even. If you want to go pure talent, Aaron Rodgers. But the quarterback's number one job is to win games. And there is no question Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback football player to ever touch a football.
Yeah, football is such a subjective sport. I feel like I hate when people like bring up the whole talent thing, especially at the NFL level, because there's too many things you have to be perfect on, and especially like coaching and stuff. But I'm a big fan of both of those guys, obviously.
Me too.
We'll roll into the next one. Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton?
Oh, I think, Lamar just came to my mind first. That may be because he's more recent in my mind, and Cam's been retired for a little while, and his last stint with the Patriots wasn't like what people need to remember him for. You need to remember for, him with the Panthers and winning the MVP and being a dominant force. But he and Cam in college was probably the most special person to ever watch.
Yeah, I've talked about it on here. I feel like it's like the greatest college player of all time. I feel like Cam Newton's up there with them, and I feel like that goes back to the same like the NFL, like his career arc at least goes back to like how subjective football is in terms of he had that one great season in the pros, and did never match it like to that hype as well. But he might be one of the best seasons I've ever watched in terms of players in general. Do you have a favorite artist or song that gets you pumped up or anything pregame?
It's funny. Pre-game, I'm not like a huge get juiced up because I think playing quarterback, you have to be so cerebral, be able to, think clearly and not be emotional compared to maybe a linebacker who needs to be able to run through a wall. So, I usually listen to some nothing too crazy. I'm a big country music guy, so throw a little Cody Johnson in there. I'm ready to go.
That's sick. I just want to jump into a couple of the questions about your whole career and everything going on now. Like I said, I know you're entering the NFL draft after your 6-year career, I believe.
Yeah.
Just talk about like you talked about not being super hype as a quarterback. And I know, like I mentioned, wrestling is different in that aspect, that it's more of an individualized sport, at least like in terms of your priority. How did you figure out interacting between those, whether it was figuring out different mentalities for different times of wrestling compared to football, or how did you go through that, and what did it lead you to mentality wise?
Yeah, so I wrestled, played baseball and football growing up all the way through my senior year of high school, and I think wrestling is the greatest sport for young guys to do, young women to do. When you're growing up, just because it teaches you such great mental toughness, it teaches you such great discipline, and I always say my hardest football workout was one of my easiest wrestling workouts because that's just the best shape you can be in. It's such a physically demanding and mentally demanding sport. You can have the highest highs and the lowest lows because it's all on you, whether you win or lose in wrestling. And then in football, I think that just carries over. It gives you confidence because you've been through tough things in wrestling. You're not afraid of anybody because you feel confident in your abilities, and you've seen what can really happen on a wrestling mat in terms of being dominated by an opponent. But so I think it all carries over, and I'm very thankful that I had wrestling because I try to carry as much of it as I can into football.
Yeah, like you said, I think it is the most difficult, like, mental sport, and that is a huge translation into football. Obviously, I know your dad was had a little bit of stuff going in wrestling. Was wrestling before football for you? Did that come first, and is that why that impacted that a little bit differently?
Yeah, I started it all about the same time.
Okay.
5 years old, I think I started playing football, and 5 or 6, I started wrestling,
Nice.
and I started playing t-ball probably when I was 4. My dad was a college wrestler, so it's kind of all 3 sports have been a huge part of my life, and they all started around the same time.
Right, that's cool. Like, talking about that transition from high school into college. Obviously, you went right in Alabama as a walk-on, which is a big task for sure. Tell me, like what was the decision between going to football and playing quarterback, and was it hard?
Yeah, so I had opportunities to play in college in all 3 sports, and Alabama had been trying to get me to walk on for a while, and eventually gave me a blue shirt opportunity where I'd get on scholarship after my first year there. So I thought that was just a great opportunity to go be a part of a great program with great players and coaches. And it was kind of cool going to college because I'd played 3 sports, and so I always had busy days where I usually doing 2 or 3
Yeah.
practices. But when you get to college, I still wanted to put that same time in, but now it's just on one sport. So I think that's really when I started to grow as a football player, because I had played a lot of football, but I hadn't just focused on football like I did until college. So I think I took some big leaps once I got to college, because the same amount of time I was spending on 3 sports, now I just got to spend on one sport.
Yeah. Talking about, like, what was the thought process in terms of that, like, playing quarterback? Like, what was the biggest jump going high school to college ball, after being a guy that was there, I think, started 3 years, like your last half of your your sophomore year on?
Yeah, so I played a bunch in high school, and threw for 5,000 yards a year in high school and a lot of touchdowns, and we won 4 state titles. And then you get to college, and I played a lot of football, but the preparation was something that I probably hadn't. That's just a normal jump. When you get to college, now you have more time. You learn how to study film. You learn what you're looking for. You learn defensive schemes. You learn more in depth the offensive schemes. You learn what the O line's doing. It's not just what my job is as a quarterback. So once I got to college, and my just knowledge of the game grew exponentially.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Were you still like tweaking, like messing around with, like, wrestling or baseball at all, like just in your free time?
When I'd go home, I'd go take some BP, but nothing too crazy. Wrestling, that stopped pretty quick afterwards, just because didn't want to risk getting hurt or anything, but still
Yeah.
like to get in the batting cage every now and then.
Are there any, like, workouts or things that you've taken from doing those sports over the years that, like, you feel works for you and makes you a better quarterback, or touches different types of skills?
Oh, no doubt. In the off season, when I feel like I need a really hard workout or need
Uh,
something, it's easy. You just go back to some of the runs I did for wrestling, or some of the just different things that you've done. where wrestling's such an endurance sport and physically demanding sport, football is more of a game of 4-second sprints. But sometimes It's good to go exercise the mind and the body a little bit and go get after it in a wrestling type of workout conditioning.
Yeah. That definitely is like an interesting transition between wrestling and then quarterback, where you're, like you said, it's constant sprinting for a couple seconds and reading the defenses a little bit more rather than head to head. I want to talk a little bit just about your draft experience now. Like, I know you hired representation and you're getting into the process. Just like, I know you've transitioned throughout your whole life a lot of times, been a lot of places. Obviously that must have had a lot of big impact on you. Like, what are your expectations and thoughts as you're going into the draft process now?
Yeah, this past year was a little bit frustrating, not being able to play as much. Had some injury, had an injury issue that I just needed to take some time off. Didn't need surgery or anything, but just had to take some time off throwing just with my elbow a little bit. But I think my agent Chris, he's I've known him since my redshirt freshman year when it was the first time that he reached out to me just to, create a relationship. But getting to sign with him after this last year and knowing him for the past, I guess, 5 years, it's been was a really cool experience, and have a lot of trust in him. And now being down in Tampa, and I've moved a lot, but I've met a lot of great people, learned a lot of different things from a lot of great people. So it's been a great experience. And now being down in Tampa, love the guys that I'm training with and working out with, and it's all going good so far.
Wow, yeah. Is this like your first time working in Florida, like full time?
Yeah, just I got down here January 1st. I've been down to Florida for a vacation or two growing up as a kid, but this is the first time being down here. It's definitely a nice weather. Probably better than Pennsylvania right now.
Heck yeah, man. I've been down there before too, and it's always gorgeous. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I know, like, I think like you studied sports management, correct? Throughout everything?
Yeah, I was communication. I did sports management for my graduate courses.
Right. Okay. That's cool. I do want to talk on that a little bit later, but like, first off, just touching on Alabama through Arkansas State, which is back home for you, and then Texas State and Ball State. Can you maybe explain like just some of the reasoning behind each school and maybe your experience at each school? What was it like?
Yeah. I mean, they were great experiences everywhere, but I went to Alabama out of high school and absolutely loved that place. Yeah. Still am a diehard fan for Alabama. And, after the first year there, we lost to Clemson in the national championship, and there were some staff changes and new guys coming in, and, talked with some of the coaches and just thought it would probably be the best opportunity to go somewhere else. So went back home to Arkansas State because I knew those coaches really well. They had recruited me out of high school. And had 3 great years there under 2 different head coaches. The first 2 years we were really good on offense and had some really good years, and won a bowl game there. My redshirt freshman year was the freshman player of the year, and had a great time. And then the second year was the COVID year, and after that, my head coach Blake Anderson left, and Coach Butch Jones came in, and we had a good year then. It was a lot of transition then. It was a tough year just because we had to bring in so many new guys, new staff, but they've built the program up now to where they just made a bowl game this past year, a couple years into his tenure there. And then, after that first year with Coach Jones, just thought it would probably be best to go somewhere else. Started 11 games that year, and then moved to Texas State, where that was probably the most enjoyable year I've ever had playing football with Jake Spavital as the head coach. He's one of my closest people in football. I trust him as much as anybody in the world, and unfortunately he got let go after that year. So when I had my meeting with him, he just thought, it would probably be good for me to look for another opportunity to play, because it's just there's a lot of uncertainty when new coaches are coming in, and get to Ball State and had a great spring and fall and got named the starter. And then, just some issues with my elbow. I'd probably lost a little bit of accuracy and some zip on the ball and just needed to take some time off from throwing from some of the damage there, but all healed up from that now, and feel 100% ready to go.
Yeah, no, that's like I like talking through each school. Obviously, I know like you played with a bunch of studs at Alabama, at Arkansas State too. I know they had a lot of receivers, and they have a pretty fluid quarterback room still that's had a lot of talent. Talking about like just between doing that, what are some of the, like, in your opinion, the transfer portal stuff? Like, what did that bring to you, and how did that impact you personally?
Yeah, and it's funny for being a guy who's transferred as much as I have. I would never suggest transferring just because I think it's so important to be at a place and be there for a long time and have a place to come back to one day when you're done. And have those relationships. I'm thankful because I was at Arkansas State for 3 years, so that's really where I feel like I did the bulk of my college, which and I love the relationships I have there and the friends I have there that are still there. So but I think, transferring is a necessary thing a lot of times for some people. And it worked out great for me. I was a starter at every school I played at other than Alabama and captain on at all three of those other schools, Arkansas State, Ball State, and Texas State. So it was a great experience. I got to meet great coaches who all taught me different things and made me a better player.
Yeah, like going about that, obviously, a lot of different locations, like we've said. What are some like what were the different experiences you had with people or coaches or certain players in terms of going to like lower level places or versus Alabama, where you see like how it's done with guys like Jalen Hurts and stuff like that? How did that kind of shape throughout like your whole career?
Yeah, I mean, it's all football. It's all really the same. Alabama just plays on TV a lot more and has
Sure.
some more money than the rest of those schools. But I think it was great because it taught me how to get along with different groups of people. At Texas State, you're going to have really just only guys from Texas because that's all they need to recruit.
Yeah.
At Arkansas State, you're going to have guys from kind of all over the South, and you're going to have a lot of JUCO guys from the Mississippi JUCOs. And then, at Ball State, you're going to have the Midwest guys, which is another different culture of players and style of play. But I thought it was great because I got to meet so many different people who were all great and who all had an impact on me, whether it was players or coaches or just people in the different cities. So overall, I've enjoyed it all and had a great experience everywhere.
Yeah, and I've talked about on here. There's so many different types of like coaching styles, and obviously like the cultures involved in like those schools and the local recruiting, like you said, is a cool aspect. And especially being the quarterback that was a captain. I bet that was something that kind of like stood out in terms of like just in the moment having to change up things constantly.
Yeah, it was just something that made me really proud was that, even though I was new at some places or Arkansas State, I was there for 3 years, but the ability that I was still able to, earn the respect of my teammates and my coaches and be a leader on a team, even though I hadn't been there for a long time, was something really special to me. And that I went in and won jobs at those places was really
Right.
important to me because I had to learn playbooks quickly. I had to get ready to go. I didn't have a year to sit back and learn. I had to be ready to go quickly, and I think that'll prepare me for the next level where, if you're not a stable starting quarterback, a lot of times you're moving around pretty frequently, and having the ability to learn a playbook and mess with guys quick is a very important part of the job in the NFL.
Yeah, and you spoke to that, like going from Arkansas State that last year where Butch Jones was hired into like 3 straight years of Arkansas State, Texas State, which is on like almost in the middle of the country compared to that, and then back up to Indiana, and then learning all those and getting jobs throughout all that. That's a whole learning experience too. So going into like quarterback stuff, like I like just talk about yourself a little bit. I want to just talk about like your numbers. Like I know you wore 18 at Bama, and wore 3 a lot of other places. Tell me like why do you wear those or 3 specifically?
Yeah, I've worn the only time I've ever worn a number different than 3 was that freshman year at Alabama because it was taken. But so yeah, 3 is just I have 4 sisters that all played college sports and they all wore number 3 too. So
Cool.
number 3 has always been important to me, and yeah, so really happy to wear that along the way.
Yeah, and then like who are some quarterbacks that you watched growing up, like in terms of just like in high school, and then or in the earlier days when you started watching film and stuff like that? Who are some guys that you maybe modeled your game after or just like liked?
Yeah, I mean, I always love Tom Brady because he's the best person to ever touch a football. But yeah, him. I love watching Joe Burrow right now just because
Yeah.
of how calm and reserved he is in the pocket. It seems like he's never flustered, always good to go. And then Purdy's the new guy on the block who he's a shorter guy like me, and it's cool to see a guy. His story is just unreal. So I love watching them, and I love I love play callers probably as much as anything right now. So I love watching Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, um, Sean McVay, those guys, that younger generation of play callers who are really exciting and really aggressive on offense.
Yeah, it's I feel like more than ever the football is really creative right now, especially at the pro level. I feel like the motions and certain things that have been taken and passed down from professional football into still like college and stuff where it's more utilized. Uh, even has like changes on guys how they practice and different things that they just mess around with like talking about grabbing like the laces and stuff like that. Like, have you ever been like changed anything like that? Like being a smaller guy, has that been a priority at all to you? Like something that you've messed with?
Um, you know, I've changed my grip holding the football once, and it was just because it felt better as I got a little bit older. But I think the hand size and this and that is a little overrated at times. I think if you can throw a football good, you can throw a football good. If you throw a football bad, you throw a football bad.
Yeah,
It's that simple to me, really. But I just whatever works, and I think it's cool to see just the ideas continue to get challenged about what an offense is in football, and the new people who are challenging how to be creative and how to get better. That's all it is, and that's the most important thing.
yeah. Like we said, like the creativity of whether grabbing it like on the first lace and the fourth lace or farther on under the ball, like even if you have small hands, I feel like that's something that has come out a little bit more, especially in recent years. Uh, Talking just about you throwing a little bit, I watched a bit of your film. I know, like I mentioned, you guys had a couple of receivers at Arkansas State, and ever since you've had played with a couple of really good receivers that were able to attack the ball. Tell me, like, having faith in your receivers in terms of 50-50 balls or just things of that nature. Like, how do you communicate like that, especially being a guy that's bouncing around schools in that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, up until this last year, when I had a little bit of an elbow issue where I had to just slow down on my throwing some,
Oh wow.
I threw 6 or 7 days a week for the 8 years prior to that. So I think that's how you gain confidence. You have to work, and I always wanted to throw as much as humanly possible, just because I wanted to be accurate. I wanted to have confidence. I wanted to know how my guys were going to run routes, and I think that's what builds that, and I think that's what makes great receivers. I think that's what makes great quarterbacks is the work you put in. So it all comes back to work.
Okay, like on top of that, dealing with many different receivers, different types of receivers. What's like ways that you've found easier to develop with new guys or to get them to trust you a little bit in terms of giving them the ball on time or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be aggressive throwing the football, but not reckless. So I always tried to be aggressive in practice. I tried to push the ball downfield. I tried to give them opportunities to go make plays without being reckless. And but there is no secret to it. It all comes down to just putting the work in together and building that chemistry.
Okay, yeah. And then like I said earlier, I know like you said communications degree. Where did you where were you
I
did you
graduated
earn that
from
at
Arkansas
Arkansas?
State.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, communications type stuff into sports management, and obviously that's a big field like in that, and I'm really interested in that whole aspect too, especially with guys like Chris Martin and other agents that
Yeah.
are going around right now, and the NIL aspect of it too. Um, Talk about like your interests in that field. Like, how does that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think NIL is great if guys are getting it once they get to college. I think it's a little wild when high school guys get it, but
Yeah.
I think it's great when you get to college. These football players bring in so much money for their school. I think it's great for them to get some of that, and you see some of the great stories about what guys have done with their money and how they've helped their community or their families. And it is a life changing opportunity, and you never know when an injury could come. So I think it's great for guys to maximize on their opportunities when they get them.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, your agent having been in contact with you for 4 or 5 years now, talking about like just normal like some of the more basic like agent qualities and stuff. Like, what were things that you looked for or that you noticed and that you've studied and learned about in terms of authenticity or what's important when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't sign with an agent until you're done playing college football. So when we won that bowl game my redshirt freshman year, and I had a really good year that year, and I had a lot of different agents reaching out to me. And so me and my dad were just kind of like, we're just going to see who the last one is in 5 years when I'm done playing football. And Chris was there, and that was really all I needed to see was that, he had faith. There had been some really good games along the way after that. There had been some bad games along the way. There'd been some moving. There'd been some awards. There'd been a lot of different things. And, I just had a lot of trust in him because he'd been there for 4 or 5 years. So I knew that he was invested in me, and that's all I wanted.
Yeah, and then talk about your school a little bit. Like, what's your interests more so in terms of outside of football? Like, what are your go-tos with sports management, and what are your goals with that?
Yeah, I'm really focused on playing right now, but I think one day I'll want to get into coaching or a front office type of role. So that's kind of why I did that, just to get an idea of what that all entails and what I need to do to be prepared for that. But I think being the best football player I can be will set me up for that stuff afterwards.
What school? Because I know you mentioned, and I know the last half of this year you said I think there was the shoulder injury you dealt with a little bit. Um, what were some times maybe that like you grew a little bit in terms of seeing things differently, or being off to the side like as a coach and seeing things that you learned maybe outside of off the field?
Yeah, I had some elbow issues this year, but I think it was good for me just to learn how important the game was to me and how tough it is to sit there at times
Okay.
and not be able to do what you want to do. But it also provided a perspective. I got to watch other guys play and see what they did good and what they did bad, try to take the good and then try to learn from the bad. But it also challenged me to try to help them and, speak it in a way that they understood, or try to convey what I thought could help in the best way possible for them.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that coaches, like in general, coaches are some of the most like talented and interesting people in terms of communications and how, because you mentioned, you need to be able to get through to people and not just say something and leave it up to them interpreting it away. I got a couple more here just before I let you go, Layne. Uh, Tell me, like, in terms of making relationships and being a competitor, like I know you've competed a lot of places and done a lot of things. Talking to a scout or a fan, like, what do you think? What do you hope stands out in terms of your game or your personality as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think I'll be the hardest working guy in the room, wherever I'm at, and then I think you'll see some wrestler qualities in me playing football, play tough. Um, but then I think my strengths are just being a great quick decision maker and have thrown the ball with great accuracy. And if I can do those 4 things, then I'll be happy.
What kind of things have you worked on practicing most this off season going into this whole process? What things have you isolated that you need to work on the most?
Obviously, in the training down here, we're working on, the speed and the change direction for the pro day stuff. And then
Cool.
with our quarterback trainer down here, just focusing on cleanup footwork. I think that's a never ending race. You're always going to be chasing better footwork and better accuracy because you throw from the ground up. So, really focusing on footwork and then focusing on speed and change direction down here with the combine training.
Yeah. Uh, like we said, there's a lot of different things to football, and playing quarterback specifically, and watching a lot of the different guys. It's cool to notice that, and like you said, throwing like using your feet a lot more and stuff like that. The last one before I let you go here, Layne. I appreciate all your time and everything so far. It's been a lot of fun. Um,
Awesome.
just talk about, like, obviously you're a big sports guy, clearly, big competitor, like I said, and have met a lot of people and done a lot of great things so far. What's your passion in life? Have you found that yet? And have you connected football and sports to that and your purpose?
That's a good one. I think my passion in life is just finding something that I want to work hard for, whether it's football or business one day or coaching. The reason I love sports is because it doesn't matter where you come from in life, whether you're rich, poor, what color you are, who you are, doesn't matter. As long as you work hard, it's the sports are the last great thing that who you are doesn't matter, where it's just what you do, what you produce, and the work you put in. So that's what I love about sports, and try to find something whenever I am done playing sports that's the same way, where the work you put in is the result you get.
Yeah, I love hearing stuff like that where it's not about the audience even or about who sees and the outcome, just about the work you put in and what your end goal is and everything. Like I said, Layne, I really appreciate you coming and taking time with me today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching your off season and your pro day when that comes up and everything to come.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on today.